In this lesson, we're going to be looking at factored form. Our objectives: understand what factored form is, understand how to create factored form equations, understand how to find zeros of factored form, and understand how to expand factored form. Vocabulary is factored form. Quadratic in the form y equals a times the difference of x minus r1 times the difference of x minus r2. Zero product property. Method to find roots in factored form. A zero, root or x-intercept. First, we want to look at exactly what factored form is. So factored form is a way of writing a quadratic that focuses in on the roots. What we have found is that we can have y equals, we have this coefficient a still. In each one of our examples, I've given that value. And then we can use our roots and put them into this equation. One root goes in here, one root goes in here. Notice how we're always subtracting, so it's always an opposite. So here we have two roots. The r is always an x value. This is key. It's always the x value. The reason for that is the y value is 0. It's a root. So here we have two roots, one being -3, 0, and the other being -1, 0. So what we do is we put our a value in, y equals -1, x minus, our first r value is -3, so we're going to put minus -3 in there, and x minus, our second r value is -1, put a -1 in there, so we have this equation, and when we minus a negative, we can always rewrite that a little bit better. X plus 3, x plus 1. And that is factored form of this first graph. Our second graph over here, we have an a value of 1. We have a root of -1, 0, and a root of 3, 0. So we can create this equation by going y equals 1 times x minus -1 times x minus 3. We can again simplify this a little. Y equals, we don't really need a 1 when the a value is 1, so I'm going to leave it off here. X plus 1, x minus 3. That a value of 1 can be in there if you want to put it in, but it's not necessary because it's only a 1. If it's a -1, that's a little bit different. When we have factored form or a type of factored form, we can find roots really easily. It's something called the zero product property. Roots means that the y value is 0. So if I rewrite this with a 0, in for y, what we want is we want this math problem to equal 0. Well, because this is a big multiplication problem, if any one part of this is the number 0, then the whole thing is 0. Well, 4 can't be 0, so we're just going to kind of ignore that. But x plus 3 could be turned into 0, so we go x plus 3 equals 0. 2x minus 1 could be turned into 0. 2x minus 1 equals 0. Now if we solve this, we will have our two roots. So our first root is at -3, so we've got -3, 0 as a root. Our second root Second root is at 1/2, so we've got 1/2, comma 0 as our other root. Okay? Now sometimes there's more than 2 x's in the problem. There's 3 in this one, which means there are 3 answers. So we have 3 situations. This could be 0, so we set it equal to 0. X equals 0. We're already done. One of the roots is 0, 0. This one could be 0. X minus 6 equals 0. Add 6. X equals 6. So we've got 6, 0 as a root. And we've got a third version here. X plus 5 equals 0. Minus 5 on both sides. And we've got negative 5, 0. Okay, so this is using the zero product property, meaning that our y value is going to be 0. So as long as one part of it is 0, that means the whole thing is 0. So we look for as many options as are possible. The last thing that we want to be able to do is turn factored form into general form. Well, to do that, we can either use the Punnett square or FOIL method. So I have 2 problems here. I'm going to do one of each. The first one, I'm going to use the Punnett square. I'm going to make my square. 2 terms, so 2 and 2. X plus 6. X plus 4. X squared here. 6x. 4x, and 24. If there was an a in the front, then we would distribute after we've done our Punnett square. So we're going to get x squared plus 10x plus 24 equals y. And that's now in general form. Let's use the FOIL method for this one. I always start with my Punnett square of my FOIL and then distribute at the end. It's typically a little bit easier. So we'll do our first. X times x is x squared. Outsides, x times 3 is positive 3x. Insides, negative 1 times x is negative 1x. And last, negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. I would simplify this. X squared plus 2x minus 3. Notice this 5 was being multiplied, so we got to multiply it by everything. So we've got to distribute this 5. 5x squared plus 10x minus 15, and it equals y. And we have general form. Alright, this has been a look at how to deal with factored form. Make sure if you missed anything or need to rewatch something that you pause, rewind, and rewatch it. Make sure you bring your questions to class. Thank you.